Hello, in this video I'm going to talk to you about how to find the distance when we're thinking about speed, and then also how to find the time when we're thinking about speed. Some of you might already be really confident with doing this, which is absolutely fine. If you are, pause the video and work through finding the distance for each of these situations, and then play it and see if you agree with what I've got as my answers. Okay, so first question, 3 miles per hour for 7 hours. Okay, so it's about walking speed. So 3 miles per hour means that in 1 hour, I will have got 3 miles. So I'm going to write 3 miles in 1 hour. Okay, so I've been asked how far I'm going to get if I travel at a constant speed of 3 miles per hour for 7 hours. So this works just like a ratio. If I want to go for 7 hours, I've times my time by 7. So the distance I'm going to get is also going to get times by 7. So I can just times that by 7 and get 21 miles in 7 hours. So the answer to the first one is 21 miles. If you did that a different way, I would suggest maybe pause the video for a minute and try at least one of these using that method, so you've seen that method too. Okay. For this one here, 40 mph means I'm going to get 40 miles in 1 hour. I'm interested in how far I'm going to get in 2.5 hours. Now you could take that and think, well, I'm timing that by 2.5, so I'm going to time that by 2.5. Or just like with other ratio and kind of percentage questions, you can work out the 2 hour and the half hour and then put them together at the end. So I'm going to do that so you've seen a different method. So for the 2 hours, I'm doubling that. So I double that. I'm going to get 80 miles in 2 hours. And if I want half an hour, I'm dividing that by 2, divide that by 2, 20 miles. Okay, so then I can put the 2 hours and the half an hour together. So we've got 80 plus 20 miles, which is 100 miles. I'm going to get in 2.5 hours. And that's exactly the same as what you'd get if you just times 40 by 2.5. Okay. Next one, 16 meters per second for 11 seconds. So again, I get 16 meters in 1 second, and I want to go for 11 seconds. Now again, you can either times by 11, or we could times by 10 and then add it onto the 1 to get the 11. So if I times by 10, I'm going to get 160 meters, and then I need to add them on, so 176 meters in 11 seconds. In 11 seconds. Okay. 5 ms with a little hovering -1. That means m over s, or meters per second. So that is a more scientific way of writing MPS. And when we do indices later on in the course, you will have a full appreciation of why s to the power of -1 is the same as over s. Okay, but for the moment, when you see ms to the -1, that means meters per second. Okay, and we're going for a minute, so we're aiming for 60 seconds. You do need to make sure when you do these questions that you're thinking about making sure that the units on your time here and your time here are the same. So I'm going to think, rather than of a minute, I'm going to think 60 seconds. Okay, so then I'm working in seconds for both of them. And I can always convert back to minutes afterwards if I want to. I'm going to do this one down here, and then I have to do the other one over here, I think. So 5 meters per second, so 5 meters in 1 second. And I need to go for 60 seconds. So I'm going to be timesing by 60. Now, I could do that by timesing by 6 and then timesing by 10. So whatever method you want to use to help you think about it. 5 times 6 is 30, times that by 10 is 300 meters. Okay, so I've got a pretty long way in a minute. So 300 meters in 60 seconds. Last one, 12 miles per hour for 3 hours and 15 minutes. Well, 12 mph means I get 12 miles in 1 hour. I'm going to go to 3 hours first, and then I'm going to think about the 50 minutes afterwards. So 3 hours, I'm timesing by 3, so that's 36 miles. Okay, now I know that 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour, so you do need to know those relationships. So if I'm wanting 1/4 of an hour, I need to divide by 4, divide this by 4, and I get 3. So in 3 1/4 hours, I'm going to get 36 plus 3, which is 39 miles. Okay. Before we move on, I just want to mention a couple of other methods that some of you might have seen. It's completely fine to use those methods, but to be perfectly honest with you, most of the time you should find thinking about the ratios probably makes more logical sense in terms of actually answering the questions, which is why it's the method I tend to go for. But you can use another method if it makes more sense to you. First method is, hopefully, speed equals distance over time. If I times both sides by time, speed times time equals distance, when your speed units are in the same units as your time and your distance. So if you want distance, you can just do speed times time. So if we look at the first one, you'll notice my units are the same. So if I do 3 times 7, I get the answer. Here, again, I can do 40 times 2.5, 16 times 11. For this one, I need to change it to the same units. So I'm seconds here and here, and then 5 times 60. So you can do that when you're happy with how it works. Okay. The other thing that you might have seen before is the speed, distance, time triangle. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Some people love it. I don't really like it very much. And the reason for that is I've seen loads and loads of students get the letters in the wrong places in the triangle. And as soon as you do that, then you're not going to be able to do it. So personally, I would encourage you to either think about it like a ratio or do this. If you really like the triangle, D has to go on the top, okay? And then you can cover over the one you're trying to find. So if you're trying to find speed, distance over time, we're trying to find distance as we are in these questions, speed times time. Okay, so you can use the triangle, but if you forget and put the letters in the wrong place, then you're just going to go wrong before you've even started. So that's why I would encourage you to think about it as ratios or think about it with the formula. Okay, right, next set of questions is on time. So I'm going to show you the questions. Again, some of you will be happy with this already, and that's fantastic if you are. Pause the video and have a go, and then I'll go through them all in a minute. Okay, so for these ones, we need to find the time. So I'm going to set it up in a very similar way to start off with. So 6 miles per hour means I get 6 miles in 1 hour, and I need to get 72 miles. So this time I'm changing this side instead. So 72 miles, and I need to work out the time. So we've got to think, what do we have to do to 6 to get up to 72? And we have to times by 12. So we times by 12 here, and we get 12 hours. Okay, for this one, 8 miles per hour means we're going to get 8 miles in 1 hour. I need to get 12 miles, and I need to find the time. Now, again, you could work out what you have to times by to get up to 12, which is 1.5, or you can think about some other distances you can get that will go together with 8 to make 12. So I can see here that I can work out 4 miles quite easily, and I can then put it with the 8. So I'm going to work out how long it will take me to get 4 miles by dividing by 2, which is half an hour. So if I want to get 8 miles plus another 4 miles, it's going to take me 1.5 hours. Okay, or 90 minutes. Okay, next one. Remember, this meant 5 meters per second. So that's 5 meters in 1 second. And I need to go 60 meters. So to get from 5 to 60, I need to times by 12. So I times this by 12. So it's going to be 12 seconds. 60 kilometers per hour, and I need to get 100 kilometers. So I'm going to start by putting my 60 kilometers in 1 hour. Now, getting to 100 here is going to be a bit of a challenge. I'm going to go down first. I could go down to 1, that would be fine. I'm actually going to go down to 20 because I've noticed I can divide down to 20 quite easily. And then because 100 is a multiple of 20, I can then just times that by 5. So I'm going to go down to 20. Now I'm going to think of 1 hour as 60 minutes because it might be easier to think about it as a number I can then divide down. So 60 kilometers in 60 minutes. So if I divide both sides by 3, 60 divided by 3 is 20. And then I'm going to times by 5. Times both sides by 5. I'm going to get 100 minutes in order to do that. Okay, which is correct, but because the question asked me for it in told me in hours, I'm going to convert back. So 60 minutes is 1 hour. So it's 1 hour and then 40 minutes. or 1 2/3 of an hour. But I'd probably give it as hours and minutes because that's the easiest way for people to probably think about it. Last one, I've got to go 25 miles per hour. So 25 miles in 1 hour. Okay, and then I'm going to work out how long it's going to take me to go 55 miles. I'm going to work out, first of all, what 50 miles will be, and then I'm going to work out 5 miles and add them on. And the reason I'm going to do that is I've noticed that I can get from 25 to 50 and 5 quite easily, okay, much more easily than I can go straight to 55. So for 50 miles, it's going to take me 2 hours, and then for 5 miles, I'm dividing by 5, I can think of that as 60 minutes. If I do 60 divided by 5, I get 12. So that's going to be 12 minutes. So my answer is 2 hours, 12 minutes. Now you could have given that as 2 1/5 of an hour, but I think 2 hours, 12 minutes is a much easier way to think about what's going on in terms of making sense of it. If you write 2.2 hours, the danger is a lot of people get confused and then think you mean 2 hours, 20 minutes, which is completely different because our hours and our time don't work in a decimal system. So that's why I would avoid writing decimals, particularly if you're going to then do something else with it later on, because you're just kind of inviting yourself to make a mistake. Okay, just like before, I want to mention 2 alternative ways of doing it, if I can find space to do so. So we said before that speed equals distance over time, and we said we can times both sides by time to get speed times time equals distance. So if I want to make time the subject, if I want to get time on its own, I can divide both sides by speed to get time equals distance over speed. And that will work so long as your distance is the same units as your speed and your time is the same units as in your speed. So looking back at the first one, distance divided by speed, I can do 72 divided by 6 really nice and quickly, as long as I'm in miles and my answer is in hours, and then that will work for us. Okay, again with this one, you can do 12 divided by 8. Okay, simplify that fraction down, and 3/2 is the same as 1 1/2. Okay, so whichever method works best for you. You can use the triangle, okay, as long as you remember to put distance on the top. Okay, this time we're trying to find time, so we cover it over and it's distance over speed, but again, only works when the units are the same, so you've got to check those units before you start. Okay.